Hi, folks. More low quality production coming to you in a computer near you. Okay, horrible start. Um, I thought maybe we talk about politics um, because so much of so many people's time and attention is taken up by politics, as if like people really think it's really important. And of course, it is important because politicians make decisions that run the world. Arguably, I think a lot of people who are paying attention might make a case that actually it's the people who have the money end up making the decisions about what happens in the world. But anyway, um, so like it seems like a very important thing, and in a way, it is a very important thing. Obviously, like everyone should vote, and people have lost lives earning the right to vote, and it's been something that's been hard earned in most, if not all, of the countries in the world, and has helped move us towards what seems like a more democratic and equal system and society. So, that's all good stuff. But, as I noted in one of my earlier videos, like politics is not really making anything better on this planet. And whether you go, into a left wing government and then you go into a right wing government, and then you go into left wing government, and then you go to right wing government or a central government, like, I mean, I don't know. Maybe stuff is better in Europe. I'm not super well qualified, but certainly in the US, and maybe I should do my next video on the US because that really is sort of a real case in point of what's going on. But like, it's got so bad now that like one side gets in power and then spends 4 years trying to get stuff done, and then the next government comes in and spends 4 years just trying to undo what the other guys did. Like it's so lame and so childish and so pathetic, frankly, and it's no wonder that our politicians don't seem to have a lot of respect anymore because it's just incredibly childish, so much of it. And I know in a way this is a complete disservice to so many politicians who are trying hard. If they're truly motivated by service, and serving the people, then God bless you. But I guess my point is like the problems of the world are not political. And until we start looking at these issues of like, why do we keep sort of fighting with the other side, and why do we keep taking like such incredibly strong positions, and why do we invest so much time and energy in arguing about politics and having political opinions? Like, your opinions just aren't that great. I'm sorry, and I don't mean to be super confrontational with like the 8 billion people on the world. I'm really not that into confrontation, but my opinion is included in this, right? Like, I'm not an exception. Like, I could go around the place reading lots of stuff and forming really strong political opinions, but there's no way I could ever have enough information to know that what I think about this particular matter is correct. But someone once said to Bertrand Russell's like one of the most famous philosophers ever, one of the biggest brains of the 20th century, wrote a 700 or 800 page book about why 2 plus 2 equals 4. Like to even know why that needs doing or thinking about, you need to like have a brain the size of an elevator, and then to actually try and like write the book and prove it, like I don't know, like he's probably floating off into the air like a hot air balloon with his brain. Um, and someone said to him something like, "Would you die for your opinions?" And the first thing he said, like instantly, was like, "No, they might be wrong." This is like one of the greatest brains of the 20th century. So I think we're all there to learn a little humility. It also makes me think of David Eagleman, the brain scientist. And like as part of my work, I sort of have read quite a lot of stuff about, how we make decisions and what we've learned about the brain uh, in the last 10 years or so. And one of the things I really like about what he said was like, what all my years of brain science research, neuroscience have taught me is humility. Like, we know so little about the brain. And if you look at anyone in history who's perceived to have been like really wise, like Socrates, the only thing that I know is that I know nothing. Like people who are sort of really getting it, really pushing forward, like they're the ones who get that like they know so little. And yet we're all out there with our political opinions going, yeah, this is right. And on this issue, this is right. And on this issue, this is right. And it's like, how could I have a really strong opinion personally about fiscal policy, for example? Like, I know very little about that. I have not studied economics. I find it extremely confusing topic, or, labor rights or whatever. I mean, obviously there are some certain things like certain human rights, like, okay, you feel like a human need to support sort of action in a certain way, like that's fine. But it's more about like, the opinions and the strength of the opinions. Like, you might be wrong. You don't have all of the information. You might be able to, you might have read 100 books on the Israel and, conflict and on all the history of all of that stuff in the Middle East. But even if you have read 100 books on it, and most people I know that have really strong opinions about it have not read 100 books on it, and I have not read any. But like, even if you have read 100 books and you're a professor and you know as much as anyone in the world, like there's still a ton of stuff you don't know. And when you have a really strong opinion about it, somebody else is going to have a really strong differing opinion about it, and then you've just got more conflict. And so that's not going to help resolve the conflict. What's going to help resolve the conflict is moving in the opposite direction, which is like, you know what, my opinion might be wrong. And I'm more interested in listening than I am spouting my opinion at people. And, our strong opinions are an obstacle to love. I've got a friend who has a really, really strong opinion about Apple being like a complete rip-off, all their products being a total rip-off, and the whole company is like just totally overvalued and it's like all a total joke. And, another friend of mine was disagreeing with them, and like they insisted on it, and then they sort of tried to disagree again, and then they insisted like really more strongly, and they sort of disagreed a bit more. And then like the disagreement was so strong, like it was almost sort of violent, in an emotional way. And then the other person backs off and say, I don't want to have that conversation anymore. Like if that's how strongly you feel about it. And it's like the more emotional investment you make in your opinions, the more division you're creating. So I know this isn't so much about politics, it's more about opinions, but like, well, have your political opinions, but just don't hold on to them too much because they're causing division in the world and from your fellow man or woman, brother or sister, and even in yourself. Um, Vote. Yes, please vote. Everyone vote. Vote every 4 years. In the meantime, you don't need to spend hours every day, every week refining your political opinions, buttressing your political opinions. That's a significant word. Um, yes, vote, but like all the time that's spent in the 4 years in between those elections, like, is that really the best thing you could be doing with your time? Because I don't think it's helping anyone.